Section 1.2 is about formulas and percentages. We're really going to focus primarily on formulas. We have a bonus section that helps us convert between fractions, decimals, and percents coming up in a couple videos. So a mathematical model is an equation used to describe a real-world situation. So for example, the formula for finding the area of a triangle is A equals 1/2 times B times H, where B is the base and H is the height. The equation is currently given in terms of A, which is area, right? But we could solve this equation for any of the given variables. Why don't we go ahead and solve this equation for B, meaning we want to isolate B. So the first thing I could do maybe is multiply both sides by 2 because that would help me get rid of the fraction. So I've got 2a equals bh. What could I do now to get that b all by itself? Well, I could just go ahead and divide by h. So I would have that 2a over h is equal to b. So this is the same mathematical model, except now it is solved for a different variable. So let's go ahead and solve the interest formula, I equals PRT for P. So this is interest, in case you wanted to know, equals principal times rate times time, where that time is in years. So to solve for P, I could go ahead and divide by RT. So I have I over RT equals P. Now, the equation for the formula for the perimeter of a rectangle is P equals 2L plus 2W. Let's solve this for L. So the first thing we need to do is isolate L. I'm going to subtract 2W from both sides. P minus 2W equals 2L. If I divide both sides by 2, I get P minus 2W over 2 is L. And I could write that if I wanted as 1/2 P minus W equals L. This third example is what we're going to see the most in this class, and that's going to be solving an equation into variables x and y for y. So the first thing I want to do is subtract 3x from both sides. I get negative 4y equals negative 3x plus 12. Again, we're trying to get that y by itself. So the next thing I want to do is divide by the leading coefficient, which is a negative 4. And remember, I have to divide not only my first variable term, but my constant term as well. So I have y equals 3/4 x, because two negatives make a positive, and 12 divided by negative 4 is a negative 3. So I get y equals 3/4 x minus 3. So let's go ahead and solve the following for y, as that's the skill I really want to emphasize in this section. Well, to get this y out by itself, I'm going to subtract 4x from both sides. So I get y equals negative 4x plus 1. In this case, example 2, in order to move the x over, I'd have to add 5x. So I get 3y equals 5x plus 12. Then I'm going to divide both sides by 3, which will give me y equals 5/3. Notice I would keep your coefficients as fractions. Don't write this as a decimal. Keep them as a fraction. First off, it's more exact, and second off, it will help us a lot in chapter 2. Hint, hint. X plus 12 divided by 3, which is 4. Last, I'm going to subtract 8x from both sides. I get negative 3y minus 8x equals a negative 8x plus 4. I divide both sides by negative 3. This gives me y equals 8/3 x plus 4/3. Oh, minus 4/3 because this was a negative 3. And again, leave them as a fraction. I know we don't like fractions typically, but it will make our lives simpler in the long run. So let's solve a couple rate of speed word problems. So given that distance is the rate of speed times time, right? So like if I'm traveling at 20 miles per hour and I drive for 20 minutes, how far will it get me? So distance is rate times time. So Jacob traveled from Kansas City to Louisville, a distance of 520 miles in 10 hours, and I'm going to find the rate. So I have my distance, I have my time. So I have distance equals rate times time. I'm going to substitute in. I have 520 equals rate times 10 hours. Our units are important. I divide both sides by 10. I get 52 miles per hour, right? That seems like a rate when we're driving our car. It's either miles per hour or kilometers per hour is our rate. Next, the distance from New York to Los Angeles is 2,790 miles. If a jet averages 400 miles per hour between cities, what is the time traveled in hours? So I have distance equals rate times time. I have my rate, I have my distance. I have 2,790 miles equals 400 miles per hour times time. I'm going to go ahead and divide both sides by 400. That's going to give me 6.96 hours is my time. Why don't we round that up to 7 hours is our